Have you ever noticed how in some obituaries, only one family member is singled out? It could be the child's name, occupation, or something else specific to them, while other relatives are just mentioned in passing. In a previous writing challenge, I asked viewers why Margaret Lally's obituary highlighted her son, Frank, alone, listing his role as a lieutenant in Cleveland's fire department. And wow, the responses you shared were so insightful. Today, we're diving deeper into one comment in particular to explore some theories as to why Frank might have been the only child named. Welcome to the Write Your Family Histories channel's Writer's Corners. But who am I? I'm Devin Noel Lee, the author of A Recipe for Writing Family History, a quick guide to help you rapidly write your family stories and turn them into books for your shelves. Before we dig into the possibilities, let me first thank J.M. Myers and Extra Digits for such a thoughtful and detailed comment. It's exactly this kind of input that I love to see in our community. These comments don't just help the YouTube algorithm, which is important, but they spark new ideas, give me different perspectives, and remind me that we're all in this journey of capturing and preserving family stories together. So thank you, J.M. Myers, and everyone who comments. Keep them coming. Now let's go through J.M. Myers' ideas and take a look at each one. I'll share some additional thoughts along the way, and I invite you all to keep the discussion going in the comments, because this is how we theorize and write better stories based on thinking why, how, and so forth. So let's start with the first theory. J. Myers suggested that Frank might have been the only child remaining in Cleveland, so he was the easiest for the reporter to reach. This makes sense, especially if the obituary was written by someone local or if the newspaper took an active role in writing community obituaries. If the reporter could only reach Frank, it would be natural for them to mention him by name, while his siblings, who were possibly farther away, remained unnamed. However, in cases where obituaries are written by family members rather than the reporter, this explanation doesn't actually hold up. Today, many obituaries are family written or organized through funeral homes, and they're often treated as paid placements rather than articles written by local reporters. So while it's possible that Frank's location was a factor, this may not fully explain why he was singled out. But it is a theory worth considering, so let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Now, here's where things get interesting. J. Myers also pointed out that obituaries are sometimes paid for by family members. If a specific family member covered the cost, they might have had the final say in whether details were included. Imagine if Frank himself or someone close to him organized and paid for Margaret's obituary. This brings up some possible scenarios. Was it an intentional slight? Maybe there was some family tension, or perhaps the other children were estranged, leading Frank or his family to prioritize his role in the obituary. Here's another thought. Maybe mentioning Frank's role in the Cleveland Fire Department wasn't about singling him out, but was more a way of connecting him to the community. A firefighter lieutenant is often well known, and sharing his occupation may have been an invitation for local support and condolences. And finally, maybe Frank was simply considered the most impressive family member in the obituary writer's eyes, and his job as a lieutenant made him stand out compared to his siblings with perhaps less visible or prestigious roles. Any of these theories could explain Frank's prominent mention and make for some fascinating family dynamics. What do you think about theory 3? Let me know in the comments. J. Myers' third idea is that the obituary could have been written by the funeral home using limited information. This would explain why only Frank was mentioned. Maybe he was the main family contact for the funeral home. If so, the funeral home may have written up a short obituary with whatever details Frank shared or felt comfortable sharing. There's also the possibility that Frank was more open to having his occupation publicized while his siblings preferred their privacy. It's easy to imagine how something like that could lead to an obituary that feels a little lopsided in terms of details. And of course, it could be as simple as Frank being the only one to the funeral home had access to during that time, which would naturally limit the information they would include. Now, I know we've had funeral home volunteers and workers who have watched this channel. I can't wait to hear what your thoughts are about the funeral home theory. The final point from Jay Myers brings up another great angle. What if Frank was the only child with strong ties or knowledge of the family history? If the obituary writer didn't have access to information about Margaret's other children, they may have decided to stick with what they knew. I can completely relate to this one. My youngest son, bless his heart, is a prime example. If he were to write a family obituary today, he might only mention a few people because he refers to his uncles by nicknames like Uncle Meatball or Uncle Pilot, rather than their actual names. And he's a teenager. In some cases, younger family members may know only the names of their closest relatives, like a father or a grandparent, and not much else about the extended family. So it's very possible that Frank was the family member with the most connection to Margaret's story, which naturally led to his role being highlighted. All of these theories bring up some really thought-provoking possibilities, and I'm sure there are more we haven't even considered yet. Each family has its own dynamics and history, and obituaries sometimes reflect that in surprising ways. Some Family History Fanatics channel members and Write Your Family History channel members have shared some really hilarious obituaries. Oh my gosh, thanks for the laughs. But I want to know what you think. Why do you think Frank was singled out? Have you seen similar cases in your own family history? Drop me a comment below and let me know your thoughts. Or feel free to ask other related genealogy questions. Thanks again to Jay Myers and everyone who shares their thoughts on this channel. I can't wait to read more, so let's keep the conversation going.